Hey, friends, welcome to the Kevin Dairaghi Show. I'm your host, Kevin Dairaghi. Today, our special guest is Mat with 1T, Lewczenko. So, guys, you're going to love this. But before we get into that, let's thank our vendors. So these are the people that are helping us grow this. And now we're in the top 5% podcast worldwide. All that is because of you, our listeners, and also our vendors for supporting us. So Lois Mann's Farmers Insurance does all of our insurance. Jason Hudson, Red Maples Construction, does my rehabs, right? It's the way that I'm able to scale is because I got people around me. So Greg Mann's Upright Construction, they do all of our exterior work, roof and windows and siding. These are the guys, right? These are the ones that come in and do all the work. We got Adam Droege with CRS, so they're the property managers. People who make sure that you get paid every month with these rentals. And they got a fantastic team to help you with all your real estate needs. So, guys, thank you for supporting us, and thank you for helping us spread this. We're doing this organically and one life at a time. So thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing all of this wonder stuff with us. So, Mat, what you're going to get today. So we're going to find out that Mat is a Polish immigrant, came over from Poland. Crazy story, right? Comes in New Jersey and then Philadelphia, gets here in Missouri over on the KC side. But just the way that he goes from that, his dad was a crystal cutter. He gets into acting, and then acting turns into real estate. And then how real estate has grown into more real estate, but then also coaching and speaking in different directions there. So fantastic. He's got a book. He's got a lot of stuff to share with us, but he's also highly entertaining and tells some wonderful stories. So guys, buckle up. Let's go in and talk with Mat with 1T. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Kevin Dairaghi Show. I'm your host, Kevin Dairaghi. Today, all the way from the other side of the state, over in Kansas City, we have Mat Lewczenko. How you doing, Mat?
I'm doing so awesome. I always say, like, to my St. Louis friends, I'm like West County, all the way, just down 70, right?
Just keep going a little bit farther.
Just a little further.
Actually, it is an awesome city over there. We go over there. What do you call it? The Light District and
Power and Light. Yep.
Yeah, that is a great place to hang out.
They have absolutely put some intention and some energy out there. Where the downtown is coming up for sure.
Yeah, we've spent some time there, my wife and I. Great. You can walk around, safe, and enjoy it, shop, all that stuff. You know, St. Louis, we have pockets like that, but we haven't really strung it all together yet. So, Mat, I have to ask. I'm going to start. So, Mat has 1T.
Yeah.
What happened there?
So I'm originally from Poland. My family emigrated to the United States when I was like 3 years old. We left. Awesome. We were political refugees. We left Poland 2 weeks before martial law was passed, and we got asylum through Germany into Austria for 6 months while my family secured visas to come to the United States. My dad's family was in the States at that time, and so they were sponsoring us, and we came to New Jersey in 1982. And so my first name is Mateusz, and it's spelled with 1T. It's Mateuzz. And when I got into real estate and into sales, I didn't have any relationships when I started my business. So I was lead generating and cold calling for sale by owners and expireds. And when you leave a voicemail saying, "Hey, this is Mateusz Lewczenko, I have some questions," my callback ratios and percentages did not happen. And so I was like, "You guys," I was like, "everything's broken." They're like, "Well, tell me your voicemail." And I said, and they're like, "So maybe Mat." And then imagine I just switch it up to Mat, and my callbacks just went through the roof. So that's the story of Mat with 1T. And it's also, unique enough that it's memorable. So.
Hey, that's awesome. That's so cool about your family coming over from Poland. Yeah. We just did Tatiana. She came from Moscow. She got out during the before all that stuff. So you went through Germany. She went through Israel and got her way over here. It's fascinating to hear stories of
it's wild
of how people come over. So Dairaghis, we're Italian, and we came over. My dad was first generation.
Okay.
So it's just like it's not that far ago that people were switching over.
Yeah.
How did you get from Jersey to Missouri?
So my dad is an artist. His craft is he's a crystal cutter. So like the deep cutting and engraving, and he learned and he got his master's certificate in Austria. And when we moved to the US, Lenox Crystal outside of Pittsburgh, PA, found out about my dad and they recruited us over to the Pittsburgh area. So a little small town southeast of Pittsburgh called Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, about 5,000 people. And my dad was a crystal cutter in Lenox for a while, and then he and a business partner started a company in the Lehigh Valley in Bethlehem, PA. And so we moved to Bethlehem. And then in college, I went to Temple University for my undergrad in theater. And after, like through undergrad, I applied to graduate schools and graduate professional training programs. And the University of Missouri in Kansas City has one of the best professional actor training programs in the country. Not a lot of people know. And I came over on a full ride for as a grad student to UMKC on a graduate teaching stipend as well, and started creating my professional roots here in Kansas City. And I met my wife in my second year of grad school. And then after grad school, stuck around for a little while, working in the theater community, teaching. I was an adjunct professor at UMKC and some of the other professional training programs in the area, like the Coterie Theater and Starlight and the Heart of America Shakespeare Festival. And then we got married here. And then, 3 dogs later, 2 kids, a couple of hamsters and some fish, we're here. And I'm here. So since 2003, I've been in Kansas City now for 23 years, 24 years now. So I've been here longer than anywhere else. And now it's home.
So do you root for the Chiefs, or are you back with the Steelers? Like, where's kind of your roots?
Right. So like for quite some time, I was conflicted, right? I was of 2 different houses. And the fact that like my kids grew up here and we're now here longer than anyone else, like anywhere else I've been. I mean, we are now officially a Kansas City franchise home. So
congratulations. You were probably the holdout, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, when I came over here, it was like the 2-14 season. It wasn't so awesome. So it was easy to be a Steelers fan at that time.
Yeah.
And the last 7-8 years have been kind of fun here in Kansas City.
I could see that. I could see that being a little bit fun. So theater.
Yeah.
So that is not a world I live in, right? I don't get that. When you say I want to go into theater, does that mean you want to be an actor, or is it there producers? Is there
Yeah, so I was an actor. I was in performance, right? So I fell in love with the purpose of theater in society, the role of storytelling to highlight any of the issues and challenges that we have in a way that's received, right? Like back when things were like the kings and queens, like Shakespeare, Moliere, the Greeks, theater was a mirror against the aristocracy, and they used comedy and tragedy to highlight the political injustices that were going on without being murdered, right? So you could tell a story and say, hey, this is bullshit, and like people laughed or cried, and like you got to live afterwards. And so the role of storytelling in society was really something I fell in love with. And so I never didn't use, when I say theater, everyone's like, oh, cool, like Oklahoma. I'm like, no. My background was in classical theater and stage combat. So I did a lot of like sword play, armed, unarmed, rapier, dagger stuff, and like classical theater and like really hardcore gritty stuff. Like one of my favorite productions was The Pillow Man by Martin McDonough. And it's pretty dark. And the stuff that I've done was always really gritty, was really like in your face, was very it required a little bit more thinking than just it wasn't like you don't have a little cane, it wasn't
right?
that,
Okay.
right? So I was always a big fan of storytelling, and so that was huge. That was huge for me.
I'm a huge fan of storytelling, and actually that's learning how to tell. So we do some stories here, but I don't know if I want to go into this yet because this is so pretty interesting. But I think people need to learn how to tell their own story. And a lot of times when you're a victim, it's this other person,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm just, and it's like, no, you got to shape it where you're the hero of the
Oh
story.
yeah. Absolutely.
I think there's the book, what, 1,000 different faces or heroes' faces, or but it's like that story arc of the the hero. Like we've
Right.
seen this play out.
Mhm.
But I have to ask, so you're a theater guy,
Yeah.
and then when did you switch over to real estate? Because
Yeah.
that's a big shift. I
Great
could see the
question.
storytelling helping with your coaching, but
Mhm.
then I feel like there's a little gap there. So what happened?
Yeah. So 2006 is when I graduated from graduate school with my MFA. And then so I was working as an adjunct professor a couple days a week. And then I was at that time, I mean, I'm out of grad school and I've got to make a living. But I also needed to have the freedom to be able to do production here and there, et cetera. So like, I didn't have a lot of opportunity career wise to jump into. So I became like the most qualified printer salesperson at Office Depot. And I was making $8.50 an hour right out of grad school, selling printers, papers, and USB cords. And I didn't. What I found was you could make additional money by selling the protection plans on the products. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, and I was like, I was asking like, so how are you guys doing it? How are you doing it? And I was going to the top salespeople and I would listen to them, and they got pretty good at like doing a needs analysis and qualifying people to come in and finding out why they're there and then providing a really powerful solution for them. And so I became really good at selling these insurance and protection programs. And so all of a sudden I started getting like promoted inside the company, but I didn't want to be in retail. One afternoon, I was in the break room and one of the stock guys came in and we were just chit chatting. And he's like, yeah, he goes, I just bought a sixplex. And I'm like, well, stop. I know how much you make. Like, what are you doing buying a sixplex? He goes, oh, it's a sixplex. They don't care what you make. They care about what the property makes. Like, and I'm like, wait, what? What is this even? Are you kidding me? And I was like, hold on, tell me more. And he goes, I'll do you better. He runs out to his car and he comes out with this plastic clamshell full of cassettes. And it was No Money Down in the 90s. Carlton Sheets. No Money Down in the cassettes. It turns out my car happened to still have a cassette player because I had a 1990 Buick Skylark, and it had the cassette player. And so I'm just playing it every single day going in, and I'm like, is this even real? Like buying homes with no money, check. I have no money. Like you go and
Got that.
like check. And I'm like, this is crazy. And so I was just I was doing a production downtown, and one of the child actors there, their parents were always in the back with them through the production, and we were just chit chatting, and they're like, and I was talking about this thing. I was like, hey, what do you know about like real estate investing? Because I was always curious about. I was always really good with people, and I was always curious, and I'd get into conversations with anybody, and they were like, hey, they're like, if you're interested in stuff like this, they're like, I have a gift for you. And so the next day they came back with this big purple book. And most people know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the big purple book. And if I have it's what is it? It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
100%. It's the number one book that makes you quit your job and get into real estate. Well, in the book, he talked about getting around people that were doing what you want to do, get into like meetups, go into investor groups. And then first of all, completely flipped my mindset around money. Like we grew up well. I never felt poor. We always had enough, but we never talked about money. Like it was just there. So I had no concept of wealth building and things like that. And so when I read the book, I was like, there's a whole different world out there. And then there's real estate and there's investing. And so I'm like, okay, let me get to these investor meetups. And then I would go to the meetups and they would talk about these strategies. But I was always a little too afraid to jump in and put a contract in because I didn't know, like, I didn't really understand the whole process very well. And I didn't want to make somebody homeless because I messed up the paperwork. And so I was like, well, let me get my license. And then I'll learn a lot more about the transaction. And then I'll have access to where all the real deals are, the MLS, which everyone knows that's not necessarily it. However, when I got my license, there was another investor there that found out, and he was in Missouri and I was in Kansas. And he's like, cool. Now you can help me run comps on my offers in Missouri. And I'm like, that's fantastic. What's a comp? Like, and so I had to learn how to do all that. And he goes, So as I'm helping him with this, he goes, I'll send you all my leads in Kansas because I don't like doing Kansas subject twos because it's judiciary and like the eviction process is blah, blah, blah. So I'll just stick with Missouri. And I'm like, cool. What do I do with these Kansas leads? He goes, well, you know what I do and tell them what it would go for an investor. But if they just wanted to like sell it as is, just list it. And if there's any equity, help them out that way. And I was like, oh, cool. I can do that. And so that year, I happened to trip over like 7 transactions that way. And then my wife and I were looking at our 1099 against the W-2 and they were almost identical, but I was only putting like 4 hours a weekend on this side. And I'm like, well, what happens if we do it like full blast? And she goes, I don't know. And I'm like, oh. So I go to the office and I knock on my team leader's door and I'm like, hey, listen, like who's crushing it here? And he introduces me to this guy. He's 25 years old. He's 4 years in the business. And that year, this is 2011. The average sales price in Kansas City, 2011 was like about $147,000. And the average days on market was like 121. And that year he was closing in on over 17 million in production and was going to clear like 460 in GCI. And I'm like, all right, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm calling FSBOs, expireds in my sphere. And I'm like, can I just listen? And can I just like, what are you doing? And so he's like, sure. And so he let me shadow him in his office one day and he's just making calls to FSBOs. And no one's hanging up. No one's cursing. No one's yelling at him, calling him a slimy salesman or nothing. And he sets 4 appointments in 30 minutes. He makes like 15 dials, talks to 10 people, sets 4 appointments. And I'm like, that's it? And I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, you were like, you had like your thing. And he goes, yeah. There's like, it's a script. And I'm like, there's scripts for this shit? When was anybody going to tell me that there's scripts for this? Everyone hates scripts. I don't hate scripts. I love scripts. Scripts are my thing. And I'm sitting here going, I'm like, he wasn't even that good. He's not even that good. Imagine. And I'm like, I was like vibrating with fury that like for a year, everyone was like gatekeeping this secret. Like there's scripts for this. And so I go into the break room and I pull up the computer and I type up my resignation letter, date it 90 days out, I print 3 copies. I go right to my team leader's desk and I knock on his door and I said, Rob, I want you to hold me accountable. Here's my resignation letter. I'm quitting my job in 60 days. And he goes, that is so exciting. And I go, I know. He goes, you should not do that. And I'm like, why? And he goes, have you seen your pipeline? I'm like, what's that? And he goes, exactly. He's like, exactly. And I'm like, listen, I don't think you get it. Look, there's these people out there. They're called FSBOs and they love scripts. I'm going after them. And so then I go home, I give my wife the other letter and I'm like, we're doing it. In 60 days, we're doing it. She goes, are you sure? And I'm like, no. I'm like, but there's these FSBOs and they love scripts. So I go back into the office, I pull up my computer, I jump into where all the FSBOs are hiding, Craigslist. And I pull up the first one and I start dialing a number. And then you know what happened? Like, my throat tightened up, my stomach flipped upside down, and I'm like, what is going on? What? I was like, I just ordered a pizza yesterday. That was like, why can't I just dial this number? And like all of these irrational ridiculousness came over me. And so that day I didn't do anything. I went home. I was like, how did it go? And I was like, so good, like so good. And then I went upstairs and I looked myself in the mirror and I was like, all right, this isn't going to work. Like, I can't let my feelings get in the way of my family's future. I don't care if I get hung up on like 800 times. I'm going to figure this out. Like, I just need to get this. I had to disconnect myself from the result of the call and I just needed to get into like massive action. So that next day I went back in, I started making calls. I started leaving messages and started getting invited over. And then in 60 days, I had taken 3 listings and picked up 4 buyer contracts. And so I had more than enough in my pipeline to go. And I want to share this part of the story because I think it's really important for those that are watching and listening, right? It was time now for me to have the conversation with my supervisor. And she was absolutely one of the best bosses I had at the time. I was working in financial aid now. I had moved over into the for-profit school sector. I was an admissions guy for a minute. And that's where it really taught me how to make like dials and get hung up on, yelled at. Like that's a whole another story. But so like I moved over to this department and she actually gave me time to get my real estate license. And so I went to her door, and I said, "Hey, Cheryl, any chance we could talk today?" And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm super good." And so we sat down, and I'm at the table, and my throat, like I can hear the blood in my ears, my stomach's upside down, and that voice from the day one with the Fizbos came back, and he's like, "You like ramen? Yeah. You want?" I was like, "Are you ready to move in with your father-in-law? Yeah. You like that? Like you ready to throw this all away? You think you're gonna make this happen?" And I'm sitting here going, and I just go, "You know what, Cheryl? This is really difficult for me because you're one of the best bosses I've ever had. However, unfortunately, your services as my supervisor are no longer necessary. I have to let you go." And she's like, "This is what?" She goes, "The real estate." And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Okay." She goes, "I knew this was coming, but this is sooner than I thought." And I'm sitting there still thinking like, duk, 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 duk. And she goes, "I have to share something with you." And and she goes, you can't tell anybody." She goes, 3 weeks earlier, corporate called her and she had to downsize her department. There was only 4 of us, her and then 3 of us. And then 2 of them were moms. And she goes, "You just saved somebody's job because it wasn't going to be you. And I had to let somebody go in 2 days." So I'm like, I go back to my desk. It's at 3:30 that afternoon. The phone rings and I look down at the phone and it said Dean of Students. And I pick up the phone and I'm like, "Yes." And she goes, "Matt, I heard a rumor that you just turned in your resignation to financial aid. Is that true?" And I said, "It is." And she goes, "Great, because now I'm allowed to talk to you. I also heard that you have a master's of fine arts and you were a professor in the past. We have an immediate need for a night class instructor 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 6 to 10 p.m. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, "It's not math, is it?" Because she goes, "No." She goes, "It would be public speaking." And I'm like, "I think I could do that." And I'm just curious. It's not going to change my decision. How much does it pay? And it was exactly what I was walking from, but it cleared up my mornings. It cleared up my days to go all in real estate. Why do I share this story? So many of us are 1 foot in, 1 foot out, standing in place. And we're praying and we're saying all these things like, "Give me a sign, send help, do something." And here's the thing: God, the universe, spirit, source, I don't care how you label it, doesn't know what to send you because you haven't picked a direction. It wasn't until I went this way with full intent, with full faith, and with full conviction that then the universe opened up and said, "I got you. And I got you here. Here's the message, validation. Here's the other message, resources. Now go. Go be all in." And that was when everything changed. That next year tripled my business. I started building out these systems. And then that's when leadership started asking me, they said, "Hey, you've done this." And like, this is 2011, 12. Like, I haven't sold a home with equity yet, right? Like, everyone's still writing checks to close it. And they're like, "How are you doing it?" And I'm like, "I'm doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm following the scripts." And they're like, "You're actually following these scripts?" And I'm like, "Guys, you're stupid if you're not."
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Can you help others do it?" And I'm like, "I would love to. I don't really know what I'm doing, but like, I can share with what I'm doing and then help hold others accountable." Because I've always been a coach. I've always been a helper by nature. Like, that's my soul is service. Always. I serve first, whether I get paid to or not. And then you serve enough people, all of a sudden you start getting paid for it. And so I was invited in to start becoming a productivity coach and a trainer. And then I was helping recruiting agents and to fill my own businesses and pipelines. And so that was the very beginning of my leadership journey. That was the beginning of my path. And at that same time, I took a really powerful course that was like mindset, personal development, and then tactics and strategies all rolled into one. And I was like, "This is incredible." And I remember looking at the instructor going, "That's what I want to do. Like, how do I get to be that guy?" And then 2 seats next to me was the owner of our office. And he's like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Matt with 1 T." And he goes,
1 T, Matt.
"What, Matt with 1 T?" And he goes, "Matt with 1 T, it's good to meet you. I'm Larry." And then at the end of that class and that, like, that's when it all started and changed for me. So that's kind of the journey into real estate.
That's a great story, Matt with 1 T.
Thanks.
So now, okay. So that was great. So now you talk about stories. So I'm a big fan of stories. I'm a history buff. I don't know if you are, but in St. Louis here we have the Eads Bridge. Probably not familiar, but um, I liken it to the Manifest Destiny, right? When America started, connect east, west, kind of do all this stuff. And it was a dream, it was a vision, it was a goal to do that. It wasn't until after the Civil War that it was actually the industry, it was corporate, it was entrepreneurs that said, okay, we're going to do it, not the government. And they built this bridge. The problem is, it was over a mile long. There was bad currents. There was sandy bottoms. It's, had to be tall enough for steamships and trains going across. So it had to have all these requirements. 1 in 4 bridges at that time failed, and the building material was stone, wood, and iron. That couldn't do it. That couldn't require it. What had to happen was the forging, right? So those are the tough days, the soul searching, etc. Right? To make iron into steel, you need to have heat, you need to have pressure, put in additives or healthy habits, and take out impurity, bad habits, right? So you have to do these things, but steel was able to do what iron couldn't, and it connected east with west. And then the last part on that one was, there's always 3 points, right? But it was dream, forge, and finish. A half-finished bridge doesn't get you across the river.
Yeah.
So just like you, if you had a script but didn't make the phone call, you weren't getting the next one, right? It was 100%. You kind of need all these things.
Yeah.
But in your storyline, right, Matt, what was your forging moment? What was that time that you were like, shit, is this what I do? It could have been going into real estate, or I'm sure there was a phase in real estate where you're like, gulp, do I do the next thing, or do I back down, or what is the future of Matt with 1T?
Yeah. So like my life has cycles, and they're about 18-month intervals. And every 18 months, this exact conversation or this opportunity will show up that tests you. Right. And somebody posted a meme the other day. I loved it. And it said, disruption follows intention. And disruption that follows intention is about the test of how steadfast are you against your why, right? How bad do you really desire it? And I remember I was at this company. This is right when, and I was looking for any opportunity to make anything extra, because in order for me to advance in this company, someone had to die or we had to move, and we weren't going to move, and everybody was fairly young and healthy. So in order for something to go, I had to what do I do? And the biggest and the best opportunity in all industries is in sales. Salespeople, the best salespeople make more than the C-level, right? Like the only one that makes more than the salespeople are founders and hedge funds, right? So salespeople are the highest paid. And so I was looking at the opportunity, and my financial thermostat was set to be a professor. I was like, if I'm like 35,000, my wife's making 30, like we're making 70. And like, that's a great living. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, we have a cool life at that. And so I never knew that there was more possible until I was exposed, right? So like, you become the average of the people you surround yourself with. And I add to that in my book, I said, it's not that. I said, you become the average of the standards of the people that you allow in your world, right? Because it's different by just being in that world. But when you have somebody that goes, okay, so like you heard it, but now what are you going to do next? And by when? And if you don't do it, then you don't get access. That's a different conversation than just, I'm just going to go to this meetup and listen. So I was never like a guy that wanted to be in the stands. I was always looking to get onto the field. So the forging moment was like, okay, like right now we have more month at the end of the money. Like, and my wife, we just became pregnant. There was a baby coming, and I'm like, okay, I got to do this. If it's not now, it's never. I got to go all in. And all I needed was for somebody to show me the simple path, not the easy path, the simple path, right? And the simple path is like, we just got to talk to 15 or 10 or 15 FSBOs or expireds every day. You set 1 or 2 appointments every day, and that's it. It doesn't matter what your website looks like. It doesn't matter what your business card looks like. No one cares what font's on there. Only your mom visits your site anyway, right? Like, make the calls, go on the appointment, and then solve their problem, answer their questions, and then overcome any objections and move forward, delivering a great experience and an amazing service, and you win. And so it was when someone finally slowed down enough and pulled back the curtain and said, this is what it takes. And you just have to do this every day, not some days. You just have to do this every day. And if you do this 90 minutes to 2 hours every day, you write your check. Like, you get to decide how much you make, period. Everybody wants to overcomplicate it. They want, and the thing is that the number one challenge for anyone getting anywhere is their desire for variety. The desire for variety is the number one downfalls for anyone's opportunity. Constantly looking to change things up, constantly wanting to make it a little bit more exciting. Like, I've got coaching clients, and I tell them at the front end, I said, we do 90-day commitments, because 2-3 weeks into this, you're going to be like, this is it. And I want you to remember this conversation, right? Because you've got to create like a habit of consistency regardless of what you feel like. And until you can do that, there's nothing else for us to talk about. Like, you want to talk about AI, you want to talk about funnels, like, I don't care. Until you hit this consistently for 90 days, there's nothing for us to build on. So for me, that was definitely the forging moment. It was, I had to go and make an all-in bet on myself. I had the framework, I had the playbook, and I knew I had all of the pieces in place. The rest had everything to do with my commitment and my input. And I know that, like, if you show me the play and you give me like proven results, I will run the damn play to death. I will execute like crazy, period. And that's, everyone's like, how'd you do it? I'm like, that. I just execute, even when bored.
I made a plan and I did it.
Imagine.
I mean,
but that doesn't sell. Right? That doesn't sell like funnels and masterminds. And yet, if you want transformation, if you want results, like, it's that. Now, I said simple, not easy. And it's the overcoming that internal dialogue, the programming, the habitual stuff, that limiting belief around getting past the boredom of execution that the top people do. I'm on some really, really great like group texts and accountability threads with like savages across the country. And like, we have these micro commitments that everyone upholds and maintains. Like, there's a fitness accountability group. We track our macros and we weigh in. We weigh in the morning and post your macros at the end of the night every single day. Who's doing it? These are people doing thousands of transactions a year. They're not too busy to commit to their own physical and mental health. Like, that's the factor. I get so many other people that are like living in mediocrity and always looking for the next thing that just can't even commit to the simple stuff. I think that's the biggest opportunity so many people watching have. It's like, where have I let myself off the hook because I've convinced myself it's just not that important. It's not that big a deal. No one knows. No one needs to know, like, if I miss. The reality is your future self is looking back at you going, I saw that. And you just cheated us. Don't miss.
Dude, Matt, that's fantastic. So we actually have over in our tools, Kevin Dairaghi /tools, we have a snapshot. So just what you were talking about, when we talked about, it's all about relationships, relationship with self, relationship with others, and relationship with things. You're nailing it, like, because you might be crushing it, making all this money, building all the titles, right? Successful, yeah. Air quotes, because that's what we think as Americans. But then it's like, are you grossly overweight? How is your relationship with your wife? Do you have kids? You know, what are you doing?
This is, and so I love that you touch on this, because this was the, like, so I've been coaching and in leadership for the last 9 to 10 years at various capacities. And I started noticing some really dangerous patterns in sales and entrepreneurship. And so I was noticing it in others, and then I was also experiencing them myself. And so I was it 7 years ago? I've always had like this idea to like, I wanted to share more in some way, like that would make an impact for people I've never met before. And so I was like, I want to write a book. And at that time, I didn't know what to write the book for, but I knew inside, like I have something I really need to share with the world. And it wasn't until about 3-4 years ago, really, was when I was seeing it through others. And then I was also going through a massive test personally as well. And it, at the core of all of this is what in the book I call the entrepreneurial fallacy. And the fallacy is this, and you could test this. You can go on stage in any room. And I said, raise your hand. Everybody always talks about big why and purpose. Raise your hand if you're in this for your wife, your kids, your family, and your future. And 99% of the room raises your hand. And I go, cool. So let me ask you this. Why are they the first ones you put on the shelf or the first ones you skip dinner for when you got to go and run and do your thing because you got to get to the next level? Why are they the first ones that you sacrifice on vacation because you got to get that call? How are we going to pay for this? You know, I got to close this. Everything's fun. Like, if these are the people you say you're doing this for, they're the first ones we sacrifice, or we expect grace saying, hey, listen, just give me 18 more months. My wife has a little joke. She's like, man, we're always 18 months away. You keep moving the goalposts though. Like when are we, you said 18 months away, 18 months ago, where are we now? And like, I'm like, I got it. Like, and so what happens is that guilt of not being all in when we're supposed to be at home transfers over into work. And so when the phone rings at work, we got to answer because we weren't all present at home. And then when we're at work, we're not all in at work. And so when we go home, if work calls when we're at home, we got to answer there because we weren't all in at work. And then we're not all in at home. And at the same time, you've neglected your physical and your mental health because self-care at that point feels selfish. Mm-hmm. And then you no longer have the energy to be all in here or there. And then when you do get home, the people that deserve the best of you only get what's left of you. And it just goes into this spiral. And if you happen to hit these milestones at work, income-wise or otherwise, you turn around and there's no one left to enjoy it with you. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't perpetuate this. I can't participate in this any longer. And I was seeing it in others and I was living it myself. I had gotten so far off the path. My relationships were in shambles. There was so much tension. And I was losing my physical and my mental health at the same time. And I remember it was a very specific moment. I was sitting on the porch. My wife was sitting next to me and she goes, fix your shit. Whatever you got to do, fix it. You don't get to do this to us. You don't get to do this to us. Fix it. Fix your shit. Put your coaching hat on. Fix it. And so I decided at that moment, I said, okay, not only am I going to fix it, I'm going to document this and I'm going to share this. I'm going to package this because I want my story to at some point, hopefully be somebody else's survival guide. And so I put together the no regrets framework around leadership, love, and life. And at the core of it, it's around being fully present. I talked about to you earlier. My mission is to help entrepreneurs and business owners that are parents get their nights and weekends back through ruthless prioritization so they can actually be present instead of having to buy presents to prove to their family that they love them and look freaking good too and be an emotionally regulated individual. So that was the beginning of my personal journey. And then again, these God winks, these whispers that happen. I was visiting with a friend of mine that we visit every 6 months. We check in and I said, what are you doing? What's going on in your world? He goes, well, I just finished my first book. And I'm like, wait, how did you do it? And he goes, well, I've got a coach. I've got an editor, a coach, writing partner. Like he helps people launch their books. I said, well, where is he? And he's like, he's in Kansas City. And I was like, I have to meet this guy. And so I met Cody and we talked about 2 different book ideas. I had 2 different ideas. And then he was sitting at the table. And as I'm telling it, like literally my arms, my goosebumps are jumping up right now. And he goes, the Holy Spirit's here. you have to share this story. And I was like, where do we start? And he goes, we start today. And that was the beginning. I had thought about it for 7 years, and it wasn't until like that moment. And so from that moment on, I mean, we met every single week, and we spoke this book into existence and put it together. And now I'm just on a mission to leave no family behind. Right? No, like entrepreneurial parents is my avatar, if you will. Right. And I'm here for the kids. I want at the end of the day, I want my kids to visit me because they choose to, not because they have to. I want, when people ask my kids, like, what are the milestones or the memories that you remember most? I want them to think fondly of the experiences we created and not the trauma that they had to survive. That's it. And it starts with me. It starts with total ownership.
We're talking, there's so much to go with this, because I feel like part of our stories really do mimic chronic entrepreneur. And it was one of my coaches. It was like becoming a dad. Actually, I talked about it on my last episode. But it was like, I wasn't a good dad because just what you were talking, the business was my baby, and my kids were a distraction from doing the business. Right. Yeah. The storyline. But it was one of those, like, I started listening to my coach. I applied their rules, right, their script to life towards my relationship with my wife, to my kids. And then I started doing the healthy habits, right? Remember additives, healthy habits and things we took out. But it was like, I hug and kiss my kids and tell them I love them. And so I do, like, in the morning before they go to school and at night. Like, this is now it's, I have 3 boys, but it's like, hey, this is just what we do. This is how we talk. Yeah. We don't talk like that other stuff. Like, this is how we handle things. Yeah. We went through COVID, and everybody's well adjusted. That's a huge, like, I think we take it for granted. But that's a huge badge of honor. Our kids aren't douchebags. Yes. Because part of it is, I'm having this with one of my friends right now. Their life is squirreling out of control a little bit. And it's like, all right, you start taking care of your own shit, right? I didn't use those quite words, but it was one of those, like, if you want your family to follow you, you start doing it first. You start eating healthier. You say no to this or this. You start cleaning up your house. Like, you make your spot, because then they're going to go, what are you doing? I want to be like you. And then they start going through the process. Dude, it's awesome. I love everything you're saying. I love the fact that you notice the entrepreneur parents. I mean, Matt, some of your words, I just did an episode about Alesia, the Battle of Alesia. So you're European. So 52 BC, talking about Julius Caesar fighting the Gallic Wars against Vercingetorix, the warrior or the leader of warriors. And he basically encapsulates this town. Do you know this story?
No, I don't.
Okay, so his enemy, right, this leader of warriors, is in Alesia. Think of like Alsace-Lorraine, right between France and Germany. He makes an 11-mile wall around the city. And then the Gauls have like 250,000 people come in to relieve them. So he built a wall around the other side. So 14 miles on the other side. So it's a double wall. And it's Julius Caesar back when he's probably in his 40s, so like my age. And they're basically fighting on both sides for over a month until the Roman cavalry comes in and breaks the siege, and then they capture them. But just like the Eads Bridge, it's have a vision, right? What's your dream? What's your goal? And it's, we're going to take over Gaul, which is France, and we need this guy, right? Vercingetorix. So they took massive action, right? Step 2, which sounds exactly like what you just did. They went there, they found them, and they freaking surrounded them. They could have retreated, but they were all in, built that second wall, massive action again. And then the third part is, it was crazy. Like, think of it, fighting on both sides, literally at the same time. Julius Caesar in his purple cloak showed up in the hottest spots every time. He showed up, he was present. He wanted his men to rally. They needed this. You can't be sitting at base camp while your guys are out there dying. You got to be there, which also lines up exactly with what you talked about. So it's just like, oh man, this is so cool. But talk about storytelling. There it is in a snapshot. Matt, this is a great story that you have.
Yeah, thanks.
So your book is The Entrepreneur's Regret.
Boom.
Boom. And this is what you talk about, right? It's your
Yeah.
story and stories of others, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's autobiographical and anecdotal. And I share, I share the anecdotal experience from others, but it's mainly, it's personal. It's very personal, around, the things the tools that I implemented, and the processes that I put in place, and the relationship between all three areas. And then, the framework and the blueprint of how to take it beyond the pages and start to incorporate it into your daily activities and practices. And so there are, again, three key areas: leadership, business, wealth, personal relationships, and then your own physical and mental health. And if you ask anybody, like, what are the three biggest areas of transformation that most people are seeking, interestingly enough, we kind of cover all three from this lens of the entrepreneurial parent.
I love it. Talk about like blue ocean. Like this is an area that what we're seeing in our show, etc. It starts the conversation of okay, talking about friends, right? So I was hanging out with some of our friends, and we're all business owners. We got, we have a couple bucks, all this stuff, and they're all talking about exploits, right? Oh, I made money here. I did exploits, right? And I was like, guys, how do you do dinner? Like, how do you, do you guys cook? Like, do you eat out a lot? Like, what does this look like? And all this bravado starts to shrink, right? I was like, well, we have a lot of fast food. Yeah, we don't really eat as a family. And I was like, you know what? I want a little bit more. I want us to be together. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, the people I was around, just like they weren't doing the stuff that I wanted. So
Yep.
I didn't hang out with them as much. I wanted people that had the different traits. Like, what do I need to do to be different? So.
Yeah. In the book, I talk about how to develop your board of directors, right? And and the people that you allow to hold you accountable to the areas of your life. And so we talk about, okay, so like it starts, number one, with an awareness of like, where am I on a scale of 1 to 10, right? And if I feel like I'm a 6 here and I'm a 5 here and I'm a 4 here, then where do I find somebody at least 2 levels up? Because everyone's like, well, I want to find a 10. Well, 10s aren't hanging with 4s. If you're a 4, you need to find a 6, 7. That was for my daughter. I just
I was like 6, 7.
Like, ah. So if you're a 4, you got to find a 6, 7, because 6, 7s are hanging out with 8, 9s, and 8, 9s will introduce you to a 10. 10s have a lot of barriers of access because they're a 10 for a reason. They've been able to put up boundaries in their life to keep the main thing the main thing. You don't get access to 10s right away, right? So if you're a 4 or a 5, you got to look for those in your life that you can look at and say, so specifically like this, if I'm looking for relationship help, or if I want to find somebody that's got a great family, I don't care what your net worth is, right? Like I'm looking for somebody that I like, see how they show up for their families. And I go, ooh, I respect that. Like I feel like that's an alignment. I want to learn a little bit more about, number one, what did you have to do? Like, what do you have any systems or processes? Is this natural for you? Is this something you had to cultivate or develop? Because at the end of the day, it's not natural. There's a reason why there's books called What to Expect When You're Expecting, and then What to Expect the Toddler Years. And for whatever reason, the sick joke is they stop talking to you after they're 8 or 9, and they're like, they leave you with 11 and 12-year-olds, and you're like, figure it out. And you're like, I'm literally white knuckling life here right now with a 12 and a 15-year-old. And so I'm looking for those relationships that are where I'd like to be or are further ahead, that can provide insight, wisdom, strategy. And when you start to associate with the 7s and the 8s, and you give them permission to call you out. And so they'll say, hey, I couldn't help but notice you're not showing up the way that you're intending. When do you plan on making the adjustment? And I'm like, ooh, okay, right. And like, hey, whenever we sat down and you set your intentions for where you want to take this in your life, like you're not really living up to that. Like those are the relationships that I encourage in my life. Like I'm looking for people that care enough to want to get the best and the most out of me. And I give them permission to hold me accountable and call me out. And I've got some really great relationships that do that personally, in my business. And so my board of directors, I've got, business, finance, I've got my families and relationships, I've got my physical health and my mental well-being. Like I've got my board of directors, and I've got the people that are close to me, my local mentors. I've got people that I subscribe to. So like your board of directors, you don't have to, it could be a one way. Like I follow a lot of Ed Milet. I follow a lot of like, on the business side, I follow like Alex Hermosi and those guys. On the financial side, like the people that when I consume their content, those are also part of my board of directors. Mm-hmm. So you've got your locals who are relationship, which is, high time, low cost. The next one are the influencers that you can start looking and consuming any of the free content, but then any like paid masterminds, like getting into coaching, finding the people that are at that elite level. The 10s will have opportunities for you to earn access in some capacity. And I find it really interesting. There's so many people that are like gurus, like all of that. And I'm like, it's really interesting. Like if you had a bad experience, that's one thing, but there's a reason why people that are living an optimized life limit access. And number one, if they put a financial constraint on it, number one, they know that if you're willing to invest into that relationship, number one, you're going to show up differently on the calls. You're going to do the things that they suggest. And there's a different level of awareness and appreciation for what they're talking about have to offer. Right. So you definitely get what you pay for in a lot of those circumstances.
I've noticed like when I gave stuff away, it's not worth as much.
It's different. Yeah.
Like when you beg somebody, oh, give me your book or your course or whatever, you're like, oh, I love it so much. Well, did you ever read it? Nah, I got busy. No. It doesn't work. It's like,
You're right.
And
it worked as much as you did.
Mm-hmm.
I said it worked to the capacity that you it worked as much as you did. Everything works as much as you do. Like that's the one thing I tell all my coaching clients. Like this will work as well as you do. You control the inputs. The outputs are not guaranteed, and yet they are extremely dependent on your input.
Man, I've loved our conversation here. It's cool when you don't know somebody, but at the end of it, it's like, okay, I know a lot more here. All right, so I have a couple questions here.
Got it. Fire
first
away.
off, you have a salt lamp behind you.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into salt lamps?
Well, I mean, I wish I had a better and more altruistic answer than it was a gift from one of my coaches, and they had a lot of great intention behind it. And I was like, well, it just kind of really looks cool as a backlight. And I mean, if there's some type of ionic exchange and it's helping me in any way, like inadvertently, then bonus, yeah. But like, it's like full transparency. It's nothing more than that.
So I was at a house. So I walked into this house and the lady's like, hey, I've had, a couple other people come in, investors, but I know you're going to buy my house. I'm like, okay, that's a weird way to start. She's like, I looked at your website and I just felt your, I don't know if she said aura or your vibe or whatever it was. And she's like, you're going to help me. I'm like, okay. She had a bunch of these, like one in every room and all this. I'm like, what is this? And she explained the whole ion stuff. And I'm like, do you lick it a lot? She's like, what? I'm like, it's a salt lamp. It's warm. Do you lick it? She's like, no, I don't.
She's looking at you like you're the weird one.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I just assumed you have warm, delicious salt hanging out that you would. So anyway, she gave us some salt lamps, and I lick it. They're all rounded over now. Each kid, so I got 3 kids, and funny. One of my kids. His was like almost now perfectly smooth from I like salt apparently. But yeah, that's my salt lamp story. Probably not the way we should have gone with that.
So now I know more about you.
Yeah. And whether you wanted to or not, right? Here's the story about salt lamps. And we did buy that house, by the way. So that's cool. She knew. So the other one is, if you could go back and give yourself advice or somebody like you, and it sounds like your book a lot is this, right? But what advice or what kind of input could you have given your past self or somebody like you that would have really helped a lot longer ago?
So probably two things. Number one, I would have gotten really a lot more clear on who I was really looking to help most, and create better boundaries for myself and my business. I would have probably, I think we all look back and go, I could have worked harder. If I going back, I would have probably leaned in a little harder into the activities and gone a little further past comfort to create more of a gap in my current opportunity. And then lastly, the constant theme that shows up for me, context real quick. During my most difficult period, one of my coaches couldn't help me. And she's like, I have to pass you on to someone new. And so I met with this new coach. And in the first conversation, she's like, okay, thanks for sharing all these experiences and your feelings. She goes, I just need to know, what are your core values? And I think I just said something flippant, like everyone says. And she goes, those aren't your core values. That's what you want to tell me. And you think that's what I want to hear. She goes, what are your non-negotiables that are at the core of who you are? And I'm like, I have no idea. And she goes, that's your problem. And so she shared with me some exercises to find my core values. And my core values that came to the surface was authenticity, energy, and freedom. Right. And so the first one being authenticity is who you see online, who you see in person are identical and they're congruous. There isn't a version of me that is not there. And throughout my career, interestingly enough, with my background being in theater, I found myself playing to the role and showing up in the way that I thought people wanted to see me. You go on these realtor groups and they're like, well, what kind of car should I get for when I show up to a listing? And it's the fact that question even exists is because someone's so worried about external validation versus being authentically yourself. And I hear people that say, man, my clients suck. And I said, your clients don't suck. Your authenticity is hidden. I said, because you're attracting them. If you're putting yourself fully on blast out there in public and letting people know exactly who you are, your ideal client will find you. And the people that don't need to work with you won't work with you. Right. And so if I got the number one thing I think I would tell myself early on is be you fuller and more authentically loud so that you attract the right people and you repel the right people. Because there's been way too many times where I had to tolerate certain relationships versus really having fulfilling and deep relationships with the right people because I was so worried about external validation versus being fully authentic. And that for me is a core thing right now. Right now I'm unapologetically full blast me, and you love me or hate me, and either one is perfect.
Somebody was like, hey, Kevin, do you want to meet this? This actually just happened. Hey, here's this investor, he might buy a couple. Actually, it just happened twice. Mm-hmm. Hey, I just met this guy. He's kind of a douchebag, but he buys in this location.
Say less.
Hey, Kevin, can you talk to this guy? I'm like, well, do you like him? He's like, I'm like, do you trust him? He's like, no. And I'm like,
yeah, then why are you bringing it to me?
I don't need him. I'll filter it, or you just do it for me. Nope, not my guy. I don't need to waste the time. Sure, there's money, but hey, if I feel like you're just going to stab me in the back from the beginning, I don't need that. That's where it's man, I surround myself with good people. Why? Because it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
you don't have to deal with
way
that.
More fun.
Yeah, I like that. Be you louder is how I quoted you. So
yeah.
All right, and then I like this question because I love history. I like going back, and every once in a while, when you get hit in the ribs or kind of kicked in the teeth, is there a quote, a poem, a story, a song? One guy, Adam Cruz, actually likes the Miley Cyrus. That's what he goes to. But when you need that pump up or kind of to get back up when you're down in life or whatever it is there a place you go, or a quote, or something that you hold on to that helps get you back up?
Yeah. So my internal voice is very intense. It's very David Goggins. It's very Jocko Willink. And there's a snippet on one of his podcasts where Jocko just says, "Good," and he goes, "Everything sucks. It's really hard." And he goes, "Good. The cards are stacked against us. Good." Right. So like adversity is the toll that you pay to the next chapter of your life, period. And so good is my favorite mantra when there's challenges, because if you can survive, then you're in rare air, because most everyone, the harder it gets, the more people quit, and there's just less competition past that sticking point, right? And so the other quote that I really love, and I don't know who, it's been said a lot recently, and I've heard it on many podcasts, and it says, good times create weak men create hard times create great men. And then, and that cycle, and like, we're really in an interesting cycle right now. We've had a little bit of good times, and then it's created a weaker society. And so that weaker society is creating a little bit of a chaos right now. And the pendulum is going to have to continue to swing. And right now, I believe society is really counting on strong men to show up for themselves and their family right now, more than ever. Right. And so as a man, as a father, I take that really personally. And there's a difference between being good and nice. Right. And so that's another podcast. We can
Right? You remind me so much. I agree a lot with what you're saying, but it goes back to that. Well, who should we send? Who should it be? And it's like, no, I think it's send me.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard mountain to go, but it's one of those, like, yeah, when you're saying that good, it reminds me a lot of Leonidas, Battle of 300. Then we shall fight in the shade. Like, it's that good. Like, that's what I thought of when you were saying that. Again, I'm a history nut, so yeah.
Yeah, man.
Matt, it's been great chatting with you. I actually can't wait to meet you in person. What is the date of the event you'll be in for?
Shoot, you were going to ask me. I think it's November 5th, I believe.
I know. I was going to pull up the calendar. I was like, crap.
It is. I think it's the 12th.
12th. As we're both scrolling through, like, zip.
I have an event in Oklahoma City on the 6th. That's what I've got those confused.
Yeah, we don't go there. So yeah, here in St. Louis, we have David O, we have Dustin Hogue, and Matt. So the three of you guys, I'll be emceeing it. So whoop whoop. I get to be a part of this. So apparently it's bring your own book. So I'll see what
BYOB, bring your own book.
So yeah, it'll be great to see you in person. And if somebody wants to join, we have links somewhere, I'm sure. Here, look, we'll put it right here. Ching. I got a guy who's good at the socials. Yeah, just pick a spot. And Matt, if people want to follow you, where should they go?
Oh, you can find me all over the socials, and it's Mat with 1 T, Lewczenko. I'm not hidden. I'm not a secret. Just reach out. I do my own social. It's not a VA. I'm not that big a deal.
That's awesome.
So if you got value out of this and you want to find out more and you want to visit, I mean, I'm happy to sit. We could do a strategy session. We could jump on a call, whatever you need.
Awesome. Matt, thank you so much for jumping on, making time for us. And I am sure there's going to be a bunch of people that really appreciate and enjoy what we went through.
Come see us in person. It's going to be even way better than this. Promise that.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks again, Matt.
Awesome.
What a great conversation with Matt. So let's take a look at my notes here. So this is, I'm a big fan of Remarkable. This is Remarkable too. But let's just see what we talk about. So coming in to America in 82, right? Straight into New Jersey. I don't know if that was a good thing or not. But I liked early on that he talked about getting into storytelling. So much of what we talk about is learning to tell our story, not as a victim, but as the hero, right? All these bad things that might happen to us are actually able for us to grow. phrase that we like to say is those scars, right, that we go through, those lives, become the birthmarks of our future self. And it sounds like Matt just is total agreement with all this stuff. Getting a start by hearing a stock boy talk about buying a sixplex and then freaking getting hooked and then growing out his real estate world. I mean, this is awesome. Taking the massive action, taking the big steps to go out there. One thing I really liked that he said is, I serve first. How can I give? How can I serve? Right, great customer service, etc. And then you start reaping some of the benefits for it. Simple isn't easy. I think sometimes we all want the easy way, but simple is still the best way, right? How can you say it with less words? How can you make your message simple? And you've got to do this every day, right? Build those healthy habits for that. Clear boundaries that he talks about, and just core values. Know what it is. Know your standards, right? I do this. I don't do that. Be you louder. I love it. Love it. I'm going to have to use that one. And then also that concept at the very end there with good. Man, this is horrible. This is going on. Good. Bring it. We shall fight in the shade. So, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this. And we will see you next time. And thanks, Matt.